What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all doing well. My name is Andrew and welcome back to the channel. A bit of a different setup this time today, and a little bit of a different setup today, and that's because we're going to teach you something new. We're going to dive into the anatomy of a drum. Now, before we get started, I want to touch on the type of drum that we're actually using today. This is a Sonor snare drum. It's a Select Force maple drum. All right, enough of the intro. Let's get right into the parts of the drum, starting with the most important one. And here we have it, the most important part of the drum, the shell. Now, why the shell is super important is because without it, there is no drum. It's literally the body. It's what gives the drum its character. Now, as I said in the beginning, this one is maple, but there are different types of materials, such as other types of wood like oak, mahogany, and there can even be metal drums like copper, steel, aluminum. It doesn't matter for this particular video, just know that the shell is what gives the drum its character. Without it, the drum doesn't even exist. Now, the next important part is on the shell itself, and that would be the edge of the drum, which is known as the bearing edge. The bearing edge of the drum is important because it's what gives the drum the ability to be tuned. There are various types of bearing edges, double 45, round over, etc. If it ever gets damaged, you want to make sure you can find a skilled drum maker to redo the bearing edges with you. That way there's no more damage to the drum. The next part on the shell we want to talk about is the lugs. The lugs of the drum are these particular pieces that are actually scattered across and around at the same time, The lugs of the drum is what's scattered around the sides of the drum themselves. Lug, by the way, is spelled L-U-G. And these are important to the drum because it's what holds everything together, and it is also playing a huge part in allowing the drum to be tuned. Now, those are two very important pieces, the shell and the lugs. Let's go to one of the smaller pieces and we'll learn about a new part there. And we are here with the smaller pieces. These guys often get confused for the lugs, and I can understand why. They do screw into the lugs, but they are not lugs themselves. These little guys are what we know as tension rods. The tension rod is another important piece of the drum itself. I've said that parts are important like 4 times already. Every part is important, just keep that in mind. The tension rod is an important part of the drum because it's what allows the drum to be tuned. Without a tension rod, you have no tension on the head of your drum. Without tension on the head of your drum, it's going to be detuned. Now, depending on what drum you have, you're going to have different lengths of tension rods. Bass drum tension rods are going to be longer. Some tom tension rods are going to be shorter. Same with snares, they're going to be medium length or shorter length. One key part about your tension rod you want to know is the measurements itself. If you ever lose one, you can easily go to your local music store and ask for that particular length of tension rod. One last note about the tension rods is because they're small, they're damn easy to lose. So just make sure you keep track of them when you do take them out of your drum to change your heads. Now that we've talked about the tension rods, let's go over to the next part that the tension rods actually feed through, the hoop. This is a hoop. The hoop is the part of the drum that holds the heads to the bearing edge. Without the hoop, you're not going to be able to put your drum back together completely. Now, depending on the size of the drum, each hoop is going to have a different amount of holes. In this particular case, our snare is a 14-inch drum and it has 10 holes. The only advantage to having more holes on your drum is to give you more points of contact to the head, which allows for more control while tuning the drum itself. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this particular part that the hoop holds the heads in place, so let's go there next. Now, this here is your simple drum head. This is an Evans 14-inch HD dry drum head. As you can see, I've used it quite a bit. We'll get into the types of heads in a future video. All you need to know about your drum head is it the right size? Please make sure you measure your drums before you go shopping for heads, because if you get the wrong size, you can't use your drum and you gotta wait another day or two until you can get a new head. All right, we're blowing through this video pretty fast, so let's look at a few features that a snare drum has that toms and bass drums don't. The next part we're gonna go over is the part right here in front of us, which is known as the throw-off. Now, throw-offs on a snare drum come in all shapes and sizes and orientations. This particular throw-off has a lever that goes down and up, which allows us to turn the snares off and on. And on the opposite side of the drum from the throw-off, we have the butt plate. Aside from its absolutely hilarious name, because mentally I'm a 12-year-old and laugh at anything with the word butt, the butt plate's sole purpose is to sit there and hold one end of the snares in place, while the throw-off itself is allowing you to adjust both the height and whether the snares are on or off. The butt plate just sits there. Now, as I've mentioned, the throw off and the butt plate both hold the snares in place. So without further ado, let's get to the final part of a snare drum, the snares. These are the snares. The snare wires on a snare drum can come in many different sizes. Typically, you're going to see 14 to 20 strands. Other snares have gone as high as 30 and even 42 strand snares. Now, the snares themselves are going to be the individual wires that make up the entire unit. A key point to know about snares is you want them to be pretty much perfectly straight. As you can see here, mine aren't the straightest, so I'm going to need to replace these. And the way that the snares work is in conjunction with the throw off and the butt plate. They're held together by two plastic straps, which I've lost since taking the drum apart, so I can't show you those. I have to think, hang on. And that's pretty much it with the snares. One last point to make note of is when you have your snares, if you take them off your drum and you're going to be reusing them, put them on a flat surface so they don't get bent. The second they get bent, they're useless. And that's pretty much it. Those are the main essential parts to a drum, and more importantly, the parts to a snare drum. In another video, we'll make sure to come back to this subject and we'll actually go through how to set up one of these drums. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you learned something. I had a blast making this video. As you know, drums are my strength. I've been growing up playing drums all my life, and it's so great to finally get to sit down and share my knowledge with you all. If you want more drum content, you can check out one of our first videos on the Mapex Saturn 2020 Renew, or if you want to see this particular snare in action, you can check out our video on the Devil Lock Deluxe compressor. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.